It's untitled!
Fabulous. All right. Welcome, Elkie Kershaw. You're christening the space. This is our first of our new lot of artist interviews. So thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. I would love to chat mostly about your EP today, which came out in January. Highly, highly recommend to anybody who is a guitar fan because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's your vocals and guitar, the whole EP, which is incredibly impressive. I think we need to stress that. I mean, you and one other instrument means you're doing all that melody work, but you've also got that percussive element as well. And I mean, I always enjoy the fact that something in those sorts of songs, I mean, even silences have a bigger importance there because you're actually noticing that rest. But I wanted to speak on that because it reminded me a lot of Noah Khan, as soon as I listened to it. And then your opening song is Hoodie Season, and your guitar riff at the start very much took me into Stick Season. So I was just curious, am I overthinking this, or is there a corroboration there?
I wish I could say yes, honestly. But I just locked myself in a room and just was like, you can't leave until you've written a song.
Beautiful. I think that's very Noah Khan of you. How long were you locked in your room before you gave it this EP?
Hoodie Season was probably only 2 days.
Okay.
I know when I was writing Milk, which is the last song on my EP, I wrote most of it, and then when I was recording the EP with Jacob, he was like, we need one final song to sort of round it out, because I wanted to release this acoustic EP to lead into all of my band stuff.
Gotcha.
As sort of a goodbye old Elkie, hello Elkie with more people and more talent.
Questionable, but okay.
And so he was like, we need to finish Milk, and so that I was locked in a garage all day. Right. With Jacob, he was like, what about this? What about this? And it was just me deadpan going, no, I don't like that idea. And it took me all day to write the last 2 lines of the song, but it's probably my favorite song on the thing. So always lock yourself in a garage if you're lost.
Yeah, definitely. That's very indie musician. I mean, you were mettering the indie musician, and I feel there's a lot of angst in the EP, so I feel like
I'm an angsty girl.
It works. It fits. I mean, yeah, so Milk closes out your EP, and I was going to talk about 14 a little bit too, but I think Milk and 14 have a lot of similar themes that speak to the EP as a whole. I mean, there's a lot in there about this fear of losing time, and I mean, you're very young, but I think that there's something really interesting in that concept about this fear of losing time when you still have so much ahead of you. And I mean, doing a lot of this musicianship, mostly solo or collaborative, but I mean, you're in your garage. It's very intimate experience as opposed to being, with a label in a studio or something like that that's a little bit more distant. Do you think that there's something about the way that we release music in this day and age, where the artist is so much more involved and you're promoting your stuff on social media, you have this awareness of your professional identity, I think, quite early, which maybe contributes to feeling that loss of time sooner because you're striving for something sooner. Do you think that social media and things like Spotify, which is very artist managed, contribute to that feeling of accountability and responsibility as an artist that you need to push for it yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's so hard with every musician I talk to. Everyone feels the pressure of, we all think everyone's doing better than us. We are constantly comparing ourselves. I have a lot of friends that go, oh, Elkie, you're doing so well. How do you do that? And I don't feel like I'm doing well at all. I feel like I'm extremely behind. I feel like with every step forward I take 5 steps back.
I think there's probably imposter syndrome in there too. But
I don't know. I think I'm just a realist.
You were playing, at least in association with Teen Jesus and the Gene Teasers, and we were in a festival lineup with San Cisco, and that's pretty astonishing. I mean, those are iconic Australian artists. Is that purely inspirational, Or, I mean, maybe this is devil's advocate of me, but is there some envy there? Like, even just like you said, you feel like everybody's doing better than you. If you're in that same space, do you feel more driven to pursue more? Or do you kind of have to step back and be like, go into this sort of bubble and reconnect with yourself and stop comparing yourself to others?
I definitely try. I think as much as I'd like to be inspiring and be like, yeah, I believe in myself, it all sort of just feels like, I don't know, it's hard to explain.
That's fair. There's like maybe, I mean, there's that archetype of the tortured artist, which I think, you know, as much as people make fun of it, it makes a lot of sense because you're alone a lot of the time, producing songs that speak to your experience. And I mean, there's a lot of reflection and introspection to turn a feeling into a piece of art. You're probably a lot more connected with those deeper feelings that maybe somebody who's doing a job that doesn't connect with those directly has that luxury to ignore. And I mean, there's a lot of vulnerability on the EP. And I mean, I was going to ask you about that too. Is there any part of you that is reluctant to be that open and honest in a music track, or does it come naturally? What's that process like?
There are definitely some songs that I'm really proud of that I'll probably never release. Just because, like, I am very vulnerable in my music.
Yeah.
I share a lot of me, but there's just parts of me that I feel like if I were to share with music, people would look at me differently. And I would love to be an advocate for some of the things I've been through, but I don't think that I'm at the space now that I can handle that.
Yeah.
But I love wearing my heart on my sleeve. I can't help it. I wish I was like all mysterious and quiet, but I don't shut up. And I'm very, like, even if I'm cold, I will say I'm cold over and over again. I need people to know what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of give and take. I do see it as people love to think that they know you. So if I give them a bit of me, they think that I'm giving them my all. And I would love to do that. But there is like, there's parts of you don't want to share with the world. And so I keep that a bit inside for me.
There's a sustainability to that I think is very healthy. Yeah. I mean, even when you talk about, you know, being an artist, being a musician, there's writing the song, but then there's also performing the song. So not only do you have to be in the right space to actually create it, but you have to know that performing it again and again is not going to bring up stuff.
Yeah. So that's another thing that where I refrain to sing certain songs is like I do detach myself from my music after I've written it. Like, I love listening to my music and being like, wow, she's so relatable. Like, I write it so then I know that there's a song out there that I can listen to and be like, yep.
Yeah.
That hits.
Yep.
But I do feel like there's some songs that that can bring up, like, if an audience isn't ready to hear something, I don't want to put other people in the position of spiraling when they're just here to have a good time.
Yeah.
So I try to cater it so then I'm obviously, I write sad songs. I'm gonna I plan on making you sad. Yeah. But I don't want to like ruin your night.
Yeah, okay, all right. So there's that forethought, I mean, even just with like audience engagement there too. How does that differ as a solo artist and then being with the band? Like, does that process of vulnerability change when you're with a group as opposed to on your own, or is it still very similar?
I think it's quite similar. I think things come across a lot more upbeat with the band, so there is that sort of like, you don't have to listen to the lyrics, you can just hear the fun punchy tune, but there's always that vulnerability. I really do try and carry myself the same way, because in the end it's my voice trying to convey it no matter what.
Yeah, so would you say then that your sort of identity as an artist is very close to who you are outside of music? Like, or is there still some element of like a stage persona? I mean, you mentioned obviously there are some things that you keep to yourself, but is there anything even like, do you have any like rituals before you go on stage, even just like things that you wear or an energy that you bring that's maybe not with you all the time when you're on your own?
Unfortunately, I'm very much myself on stage. I really wish I had a stage persona. I wish I had, like, I got to wear, like, fun costumes, but I think when it comes to depicting my songs and who I am, the main appeal of me is that I'm somewhat genuine.
Yeah.
And I'm way too awkward to be able to get on stage and, like, think I'm, like, this hot, sexy thing, or, like, be able to strut around. So I'm very much just as uncomfortable on stage as I am in person.
Beautiful. I mean, when you talk about bringing something that people can relate to, I mean, I think that's perfect. You're very much true to the songs that are on your EP. I was going to ask you a bit about producing as well, because, I mean, I've done a little bit of a dig, but I think especially when you're looking at indie artists, obviously not everything is as highly publicized. What is your producing process? Are you very involved in that, or?
Yeah, I actually just recently had to talk with my producer about how we worked things.
Right.
Because originally I wanted to be completely standoffish. I didn't.
Right.
Because in the past, when I tried to produce my own things, I didn't like how caught up in the details I was getting. I wanted someone else to just take over, and then I could listen to the whole picture. But I've learned that doesn't work for me. I am very hands-on, and I love to micromanage. But I think, because my music is so personal to me, I don't feel comfortable stepping back, and I feel like I've got this sound in my head that I really need for my songs to have. So it's getting a lot more equal, and I hope to always be a core producer on all my music now.
Yeah, awesome, cool. So when you talk about being hands-on, things that you want to be removed from, but then you have to sort of come in, how does something like social media factor into that? I mean, I feel like there's a love-hate relationship there. I mean, there are some musicians that are like, it's such a modern invention in terms of advertising, and there's a desire to be removed from that. And then I feel like other people just take to it really naturally. What's your sort of relationship with that?
I really struggle, to be honest. Because I think social media is so great for connecting with other artists and for networking. I think that's where I've found some of my favourite acts, and like people that I would love to play shows with, and people I book shows with are all people that are really good with social media.
Yeah.
I'm not. I sort of only post about gigs when they're happening. I don't know how to, like, TikTok. I'd like to believe I have some form of a personality, but the second you put me in front of a camera, I sort of shut down.
Yeah.
So, it's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
I mean, it's an entirely different profession. You're being asked to be basically a marketing executive when you're the creative.
Yeah.
But I mean, because we were talking before this about studying music sort of being something that, you know, sure has its benefits, but can really reduce that process to something very rigid and very academic. And I feel like social media maybe does a similar thing. You don't have that same like authenticity of creative freedom. I mean, your music is very raw and it's very close to you, and there's something, you know, that maybe needs to be sanitized in a way to be on social media. So yeah, I feel like it depends, I think, on your music. I think, like you said, if there was like a persona, maybe that's something that translates more to social media. But I mean, it would be a huge demand of an artist like you to be on it all the time, because I mean, like you mentioned, people feeling like they know you. Social media obviously is designed to foster some sort of parasocial relationship that would maybe make that intimacy, you know, exhausting in a way. I want to talk a little bit about the dramatic irony I feel that there is in the EP being called I Fear I've Disappeared, when you're an artist and there's obviously this stress of publicity and wanting to be seen. I know we sort of touched on it a little bit more, but was that sort of deliberate in terms of calling out maybe being physically seen, but a part of you being lost or a part of you not being acknowledged? through your artistry? Is there anything, through that?
Yeah, so that lyric comes from Milk, and that whole song sort of had two ideas to it, which was, one, the relationship I was in at the time. I thought I had lost who I was to sort of like be with this person.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like I always have this sense of underachievement. It's another song on the EP is MVP, which is all about not feeling good enough. And I think like those are the thoughts that rattle through my brain constantly. And I do think that it's so easy to fall into the background in music if you're not doing something every second.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I definitely feel very lost a lot of the time and forgotten about.
Yeah, I mean, talking about needing to achieve something all the time, I feel like music is one of those really tricky professions because, I mean, I would almost say that like maybe 30% of it is actually tangible and then like 70% is in your head. It's that thinking process, it's the creating process. I mean, the final product is one little portion of what that was like that people get to see. So do you feel like do you think you credit yourself for the time that it takes for something to sort of be cooking in your head, or do you think it's very easy to dismiss that until you're like touching an instrument, making, the song itself?
I give myself no credit.
Yeah.
I know, like, my self-talk is terrible. I should do better, but if I was doing better, then I wouldn't have any music to write.
Yeah.
Like, stop taking your meds, write a song, then take your meds again. Don't actually do that. But
we're taking after the 70s, 80s. Yeah. That was the time. Get high, write a song, be depressed later.
Yeah, no, literally, like, I don't know, there's so much effort, like, I'm constantly working on something
Absolutely.
To do with music.
Yeah.
Constantly staring at my phone, waiting for an email to come through for a gig, or organising something, or just trying to write.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it just feels like the outcome doesn't live up to all the work.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
that's just, I just need to think better about it, I suppose. Go
Yeah.
to therapy.
I mean, it's tricky because, I mean, you think about a song, I mean, what's an average song length? Like 3 minutes. I mean, somebody's engaging with your art for 3 minutes. And, like, there's no understanding, or at least, like, real comprehensive understanding, I think, of everything that goes into that, unless you're somebody who does it yourself. But, I mean, I think there's also a satisfaction there. I mean, there's a real skill in being able to condense an experience or a feeling into something that short that still translates everything that you're saying. But on songwriting, I mean, I know everybody's different. Is your songwriting versus like stage performance, say, for example, would you, like, in terms of your ideal split, do you really appreciate that time alone making the music, or do you get more excited for that like rush when you actually get to be on stage performing? What's that like?
I love both for different reasons. Both of them give me a little serotonin boost and a little bit of validation that what I'm doing is worth it. Definitely writing's really hard. For every full song I write so many ones that I don't even want to finish. I can go months with no great ideas and feeling really down, but I can also get on stage and play the best set of my life and still hate it.
Yeah, so, that's very real.
I'm realising now that I'm not that inspiring of a musician to interview.
I think you're very authentic, and you probably speak to the general experience of what that is like as an artist.
But yeah, I think either way, no matter what I write songs for me. But I love when my songs are heard. So no matter what, I love writing my songs so then I have just a little piece, like it's like journaling.
Yeah,
I'm just doing my little journal. But I love the connection when the audience appreciates what I've created. And I love hearing music from other people that I really connect with. So I like the idea that I might do that for some people.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Last little thing that I want to talk about with the EP. I want to talk about the cover choice, which I assume is a picture of you in primary school. Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know what grade you were in?
Maybe grade 3.
Grade 3. Okay. I was curious in terms of like that correlation with the title of the EP. I mean, it could be both. These were my analysis, so just throw them out if they're wrong. But a part of me wanted to be like, okay, maybe this points towards the things that you say in the EP, maybe you feeling like they've been sort of cooking since you were that age. You know, are they experiences that have only sort of now come to being expressed? Or was this EP a little bit more about getting in touch with that childhood version of you and like retracing your steps the other way? Or was it neither? But
definitely, I just thought the photo really encapsulated how out of place I feel. That's a wonky looking photo of me. She did not look cute.
I don't think anyone looked cute in their like grade 3 school photo.
But like, yeah, I think I saw that photo and I was like, oh, she looks hella out of place.
Right.
And so, yeah, I just think that it really highlighted that everyone, not to be like, I never fit in, but like, I was definitely weird.
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody who's in the creative field probably has a similar feeling. I don't think you're being not like other girls for saying that. Okay, random question just out there, but in terms of performing your songs, I find it fascinating when I hear an Australian artist who has a distinct Australian accent, especially as a vocalist. Is that something that you've always had, or did you have to retrain yourself to sing with your accent after doing like the American accent?
It's definitely something that I had to think about.
Yeah.
I was a really soft, quiet singer when I was younger because I was so scared of being heard. I also sang like the classic like indie cursive.
I think it was a phase, yeah.
But then when I started taking music seriously and studying it, I had this one teacher that was like, I think I was singing Crazy by Niles Barkley.
Classic.
And I pronounced it crazy. And she's like, you're Australian, you say crazy. And then it sort of like sent me on this like spiral of thinking like, how does accent relate to music, and why do we pronounce words certain ways? Like sometimes it can be for the rhyme. Like I've got one song where there's like one word I pronounce in an American accent just so then it rhymes, but because I'm so used to singing in an Australian accent, I will pronounce it that way instead, and then it won't rhyme, and then I won't remember the words.
Right.
But yeah, I think as I thought more about accent and who I am, I sort of fell into, like, a lot of the time I'm just like singing. I'm just speaking on pitch. Because a lot of my songs are written as just like word vomit. Yeah,
well, like you said, like journal entries, very much that vibe.
So it's just a lot of words and a lot of things that I have to get out. So it's just, I like singing with my accent because even though I sound a little bit bogan, it just feels like I want it to feel like I'm speaking genuinely, and I know that other people can be genuine and make it sound pretty, but I don't overly want the songs to sound pretty sometimes.
I was obsessed with it listening to your EP. I think it made me think a lot of Ali Barter, who was like, she's this older Australian singer, but I think she was like the first person I heard who sang in an Australian accent. And this was at a time when I was like a kid and I was like, I'm gonna do music. And it was like, it's weird to say because people don't really talk about representation in terms of accents because it's not like it's this pressing, oppressive issue. But I think it really says a lot about artistic identity, like for you to be able to sing like that. And I think there is an earnestness to it that makes me want to listen to you when you sing. But yeah. Okay, tell me a little bit more about Elkie Kershaw and the Distant Relatives. Do you guys have anything in the works at the moment?
We have been trying to cook up a single that should be out in the next few months.
Very exciting.
Yeah, it's called Hopeless Case.
Nice.
Yeah, I really just hope with the Distant Relatives that, like, I want to be known for that.
Okay.
I would love to, like, I added on the Distant Relatives part so then people would know that, like, I'm bringing a band. but I just, I would love for if people heard my name and they just expected to see me with a band.
Yeah.
I'll always love playing acoustic songs, but I definitely would love to step away from that just because I feel so terrified on stage and I feel so much better with my band there with me. And I just think I am so inspired by, like, sort of like the pop punk sort of stuff that, like, I would love to move into a slightly heavier genre that is very hard to convey with an acoustic guitar. So,
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to be known as Elkie Kershaw and the Distant Relatives and just sort of, like, play shows with my band more.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a great legacy. I just feel like any Australian band, I'm like, they got it cooking. I mean, we've got a good history of bands coming out of Australia. And I think especially now, I mean, maybe I'm biased just because I'm at an age where I'm really engaging with music, but I think that it's a fantastic time to be an Australian artist.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. I'm going to ask you for one last thing. We have a segment here that we're going to call Budget Cuts. We humble student radio at a university do not have the funds to make a jingle, and we're in desperate need of one. So please, please bring your musical expertise. And if you could make us a jingle with these very advanced instruments in front of you, that would be fantastic.
I would love to.
Have a play around, totally on your time.
I'm scared.
Anything. It can be. You can ask me to do things if you want.
Good.
Enlist me.
I think we need an egg shaker.
Fabulous.
And you're gonna hit those chimes.
Perfect. Like I'm running a finger down a piano.
Does this segment have a name yet?
Budget Cuts.
Oh, okay.
Go.
No, like the actual.
Oh, the actual interview?
Yeah. Okay.
You can be the startup.
Okay. When I point at you.
Okay. Chimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then hit me with a beat. It's bad! Oh, hit it.
That's part of it. The laugh is candid.
I forgot the lyrics I thought of. Untitled segment. It's untitled. Untitled segment at Radio Monash.
That was stunning. That was very jazz musician of you. Thank you very much for joining us, Elkie.
Thank you for having me.
I'm very pleased that we had you as our first up. Bam. Done.
Untitled segment. It's untitled. Untitled segment at Radio Monash.